Hi there, welcome back to Mo's Garage, or in this case, welcome back to Kathy's Kitchen. In today's episode, we are going to go ahead and put an ice splice in this 5/16 line, and we're also going to whip the other end of the line. Basically, we are going to be swapping out the furler on our Seaward 26RK. Currently has a CDI furler, which I think it's good for smaller boats, but on our boat, we're noticing that we have a bit of a hard time hoisting the last third of the sail, mainly because it binds, to be quite frank. And so I have never been a huge fan of the CDI furler. The CDI furler has its own internal halyard, which precludes you from being able to adjust the tension on it while under sail. And so we've decided to go with a Harkin furler. In this case, we're going to put a Harkin Mark IV Unit 0 due to the size of our boat. And we will be go ahead and installing that. So our mast is currently set up with a sheave for the jib, but it does not actually have a jib halyard since the CDI has its own internal halyard. So step one of our change to our boat will be basically go ahead and installing a halyard. And I said earlier, as part of the halyard, we're going to put the ice splice and whip the ends. So it looks nice and professional. I'm going to most likely put a shackle on here that is not an easy release. So most likely means I can put the ice splice in without actually having to do the shackle based on the kind I'm going to use. We'll see. But anyway, so hopefully you enjoy this episode. So let's get going. Awesome. I think a good place to start this video is kind of talking about the tools of the trade. So first things first, I have a nice book here from Samsung that is their splicing manual. Well worth it if you're going to do this kind of work. It basically provides all kinds of different methodologies to put splices in different kinds of lines, etc. So we're going to be putting a splice into an ice splice into a double braided line. So that's going to be our choice here. So we do have a little section here. I'm not sure if it's easy to read on the video now, but we want to say, okay, double braided line, class 1, ice splice, 130, 137. Go all the way over here. And voila. This is kind of the step-by-step instruction on what it's going to take to get the ice splice done. So good stuff. The other thing we have here is I actually have the Samsung splicing kit that also has the same set of instructions in it for the double braided line, and it comes with all kinds of fun stuff. Now I have added a few items to this, so it may not come with everything that's in mine, but as you kind of pull it out, you have all kinds of fids. So basically these are called a fid, and each fid is in a particular size, and the size of the fid you use should match the rope you use or the line. For example, this is a 1/2 inch, so we're looking for a 5/16 inch fid, and that's 3/8 almost. And this one here is, oh, I have two 3/8. And obviously this cannot be 3/8, this is 7/16. So it looks like we have the 5/16, the last one we grab almost. Okay, so this will be the fid that we're going to be using for our lines. I also have an owl to basically, it kind of really helps kind of extract the core. This is something I bought that I've never really used, to be honest. This is also a fid. And then this is kind of basically allows you to kind of push the fid through the line and kind of help you out a little bit. As I said before, if you look at this over here, there's actually a set of instructions that came with it. And the set of instructions that come with it is to do, interesting enough, ice splice, double braided class 1, which is what we have right here. So good stuff. Then last but not least, we have some good needles to basically whip the lines with. And we also have a nice leather kind of palm for basically pushing the needles through. So that actually works very well. And then we have an assortment of whipping lines. So I have black, red, and white. we can use whichever we want to kind of for this little project. So that kind of gives you kind of an idea of what kind of the tools are needed. You don't actually have to buy this whole entire kit. You could actually just go buy just the FID if you want for the line you're doing. But I said the kit from Samsung is actually pretty cool. So okay, good deal. So we'll get this table cleared and then we'll start our braiding project. Awesome. So before we get started, we need to decide on what kind of shackle we're going to use. We have a quick release shackle and just kind of a normal shackle that you would see on like a main halyard. These shackles are good for when you need to release something quickly, but when used as for the halyards, they can have a possibility of something happening to where this one will pop open and you will lose your halyard. It actually happened to me once, so I'm not super crazy about using these for halyards, other than maybe for a spinnaker halyard. So we're gonna go with this kind. Since we're gonna go with this kind, we can take this thing apart, put it on the eye after the fact. This one, obviously, if we're gonna go ahead with it, we'd have to put it in the eye as we're doing the splice. So anyway, decision made. So we're gonna move forward with this other one, which allows us to do the eye splice first, and then we can put the shackle in. Awesome. So now that we know what we're using for a shackle, let's get going. So I do have my handy dandy book right here. Quite frankly, this is one of these things I do so sporadically that you have to, every time I do it, it's like from the beginning. And interesting enough, you watch the videos online and they make it look easy. It is not as easy as it looks. One thing I will say is it's kind of important to have like brand new line. Old line is not very stretchy. And if you try to put an eye splice on an existing line, it can be quite the bear, trying to get the FID through it, and it's not a lot of fun. So I would definitely recommend doing this on your line. So step one, you will need a Sharpie. And what we do is we go 1 FID length, this is a FID, and we'll mark that. And this is basically our position R. And then from that point onwards, we will want to kind of figure out what size of a eye splice we want. And I'm thinking that's more than adequate there for our purposes. And then we'll go ahead and mark this. And this will be position X. And we're going to mark it all the way around. Okay, awesome. And then from this position R, what we're going to do is we need to find the next position called position mark T. And to get mark T, basically, I'm not sure if you can see this, but these are kind of the braids in the double strand, the double braid cover. And so what we need to do is we need to kind of go from position R and count 8 of these guys, and that will be position T. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the next one is here, which is T. So that's the 9th one. So this is position T, and we'll go ahead and get that marked all the way around too. Okay, and then from position T, what we'll want to do is we'll want to go ahead and go down all the way here and mark every 5th right and left strand. Again, hopefully you can see this, but these has these strands. So this is the left and right. So we're going to go 5 down, mark it, 5 down, mark it, 5 down, mark it. So all the way to the end. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that's step 1. We'll grab our book, turn it over. So next step is to extract the core. This is where this little owl comes in really handy. So
And the trick here really is to kind of, and we're going to extract the core at mark X, I'm sorry, which is right over here. If you remember, this is basically what completes our loop. And the best way to do it is basically to kind of give it a good old squeeze and then use this guy here to get the braids apart so you can actually see the core inside. Now the trick is to try to do this without snagging one of these guys. And I try to be kind of gentle here just because it's one of those things where you just want to be for multiple reasons. And voila, here's the core. And we're going to basically come out from this end, we're going to extract it. Okie doke. Good deal. Okay. Now that we have that done, so we're going to basically try to make sure that these ends are kind of all lined up. So from here to here, so it's kind of matching up pretty nice. We're going to mark 1, and mark 1 basically is right here as it comes out of the cover. So this is mark 1. As the braid comes out. So number 1. And then from here, we're going to kind of grab our fid and we're going to start marking the next one. So the next one is mark 2. So mark 2 is we're going to pull this out. And mark 2 is the distance of a short section of the fid. So I'm not sure if you can see this, but there's these double marks. So this is a short section. So we're going to go over here. And this is mark 2. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put 2 dots on this. So we know it's 2. And last but not least, we need mark 3. And mark 3 is 1 fid plus another short section. So pull more out. So we have a short section right here and a full section over here. So this is mark 3. So I'm going to put 3 dots on. So that's all marked out. So since we're in Kathy's kitchen, you'll actually hear some kitchen noises coming up here soon. So that's okay. This is real over here. So the next step really is to insert the fid into mark 2 and out of mark 3. So we have mark 2 over here and mark 3 is over here. So basically we'll kind of open it up to get into the core. And then we'll just basically thread it in here carefully until it comes out the other end. Okay, so we have that threaded, and then what we want to do is we want to insert the core basically back in here and out that way. Now, in order to do that, we'll most likely want to take this tape off of here, and we'll go ahead and put a little bit of electrical tape just because we can get it a little bit tighter, so we can really jam that thing inside the fid. So I've got a little bit already out. Gotta get a little pointy end to it. Oops. In the meantime, we lost our fid here. No worries. We can get him back still without any problems. Okay. So simple matter of just kind of shove this guy in here. And then get it to come out the other end. Now we have this rod here that we can use to kind of help that if we need to. So we'll just basically pop it in here, in through here. And off we go. And voila. There's the core coming out at the other end. You can undo this one here. Take that out. Okay, good. So now we have the core coming out of 3, going into 2. So, as the French say, voila. And basically what we want to do is we want to keep pulling this until point R comes out, and R is right here. There's my initial R, so we are where we want to be. Okay, now we get to flip the book around. So now the next step is to do the taper on the cover. So basically what we're going to do is getting the taper done. We went ahead and marked all these strands for a reason, and these are the strands that we're going to pull out. And as we pull them out, we're going to cut them out. So that's the best way to do it. So first things first, we'll get rid of the tape. We don't need it anymore, at least not for this. Okay. And so what we'll do is we'll just basically, with our awl, we'll grab the lines that we want to get out. And my advice to you is, as you grab them, cut them. If not, towards the end, it gets a little confusing as to what do we want to keep, what do we want to get rid of. So a nice, decent pair of sharp scissors come in really handy here. And we'll cut that off. And basically, we're going to work our way all the way up until we hit mark T. Until you reach mark T, which is right here. So we'll do the last one over here. We'll pick a couple from T, and we'll call it good. And now we've officially tapered the core. Let's grab this extra one here. That's otherwise it's going to cause a bit of a mess. Okay, so that's that done. At this point in time, what we're going to do is we're going to pull this back, as I say, very carefully, until mark T shows up out of mark 2, which is right over here. So this is mark 2. So we want to, let's kind of back this back out. Until mark T shows up out of mark 2. I think we want to leave this tail out. So it's last time, so we'll keep going. Here's R. And then coming up is mark T. Just right there. So that's T. Okay, so what we want to do now is where mark T, mark 2 come out, we want to very tightly secure this. So I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in, a safety pin, to prevent this from coming apart. So that's the plan. Okay, so that's that done. Next. Okay, next for the super fun part, which is reinserting the core back into the cover. First thing we have to do is we have to mark a new point called mark Z. And mark Z is from basically the third of tubular fid length towards away from here. So basically this is where mark Z is going to come out of. So we're going to go from the top, I think. Right here. And here's our third of tubular fid. And we're going to go ahead. This is going to be our mark Z. So now for the fun part. So we're going to have to tape this end and get it to the point where we can jam it in the fid, because we have to basically somehow get this whole entire mess through and out through Z, which is harder than it looks. This is where, when you look at the online videos from Samsung, they make it look super easy, but it takes a little bit of effort, to say the least. So next step is we'll grab some more tape. And we'll do our absolute best to get this to be very tight. It definitely helps to try to get it to a pointy end. That way you can actually shove it in here and kind of hopefully fits somewhat. So for our next trick, we're going to grab the fid and we're going to insert the fid over in here. So in the meantime, we will undo this. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert the core into the cover at mark T. So if you remember correctly, this is mark T over here, this location. So we're gonna basically, again, try really hard not to move this around. Mark T begins over here. Get the core, the fid in here. And then as we get over here, here's our mark Y. We're going to try to make sure we go over the top of the existing core that's in there and slowly but surely work our way in there. So this is the part that when you look at the videos online from Samsung, they look super easy. They just go in there just like butter. Reality is a little bit different. Takes a lot of kind of patience, working it in bit by bit. Because for obvious reasons, you're trying to jam the fid into a spot where there's really not a whole lot of room for it. And in the meantime, we try to also make sure that the silly thing does not come apart on you. I believe that's right there, yeah. So now that I can feel the tip at this end, and it's lined up with my Z, I can start trying to push it out. So it pops out of this. And what we'll try to do, we will definitely try to make sure we can pop it out and give it a little bit of help by moving some of these strands around. I'm going to try to make sure that it comes over. What we're trying to do here is not jack up any of these strands unless we absolutely have to. I'll grab a little bit of a plastic surface here that I can just really quick. I'm sure this is out of the camera. So if that's the case, I am sorry. Okay. Sheesh, what a pain. So now the trick is, this goes in here. And somehow, we're going to push this all the way through and come out the other end. That's where our good friend over here comes in pretty handy. This guy. If you kind of try to thread him in somewhere behind here into the core. And what we try to do is get him into our whatchamacallit. And basically try to get this whole entire nonsense all the way through. Takes not a little bit, but a lot of effort. And wow, that took in. Not exactly easy, that's for sure. Okay, so that's that at this point in time. So next step is we're going to basically grab the core that came out of the Mark Z. We're going to look for the tail of the taper, which is basically right at Mark 3. Mark 3 is up here. Actually, this is Mark T over here. Actually, see this is actually Mark 3. So we're going to grab this, and we're basically going to kind of just pull it over here. And we want the crossover point, which is right here, to be cylinder side. So we're trying basically now to get all this to be about the same size over here. So this is the crossover point. So if you kind of come through here, we'll get our little guy out here right now. Same thing over here. Okay, so next, we've got this all nice and smooth. Okay, so for the next thing that needs to happen, once you've got this all sorted, looking good, you need to break this up, kind of do one of these numbers, and then shove your Sharpie in there to make a mark. Once that's done, you come over here and you pull that out to see your mark, which is right there. Forgot to mark this right here. So this is where it exits Z. This is where I did X. And this is far as, okay, good. So next step is we're going to cut the tail off. So we're going to cut here. And then we're going to basically taper it by grabbing all these strands. So we're going to mark every other pair and pull them out. Bit of a mess, but that's okay. Okay, then last but not least, you should be burying the exposed core. So at this point in time, basically kind of back away this thing, and we start going in this direction. To try to get the, now what we're gonna do is basically we just kind of come over here as we're holding on to this. And we start milking it all the way from the end, all the way this way. Now, it does require a little bit of effort, to say the least. Kind of milking it through the actual ice splice. We're almost there. Now, you may ask yourself, it's a lot of work, but the reward is obviously in the satisfaction of a job well done, and also of a neat rigging. Okay, almost there. This is point R, if you remember, so we want to get it all the way in if we can. And one more, and I think we're done. Okay, good news. I think that R and X are now together. So this portion of it's done. Our next portion is basically to go ahead and whip it, just so it does not fall apart. And then that will conclude the ice splice portion of it. And then we will basically jump on into the whipping the other end of the line. So yeah, there it is, done. A little bit of work, but as I said, it's well worth it after all said and done. So yeah, awesome. So the last part of doing the ice splice is putting the lock stitching in. There's also a nice little section in the book that goes down. Fairly simple, so you need to get some, basically some whipping twine. And this stuff comes in quite a few different colors. I have black, red, I might have green somewhere, but unfortunately I don't have blue. We're just gonna use white, so this will blend in with this pretty nicely. And so just kind of grab some. Most likely it's more than I really need, but it's better to have a little bit too much than not enough. And so we have a needle. And basically you're just doing a little stitching is what you end up doing. Okay, awesome. So I have my handy dandy palm deal here, and we're going to start just basically putting a stitch right through the middle here, and we're going to push it right in here in the middle. So that's going to come out, pull it out, and we should be able to get the tail out of here. Okay. Okay, so there we go. We'll leave a little bit of the tail out over here, and we'll come back over here. So what we're looking to do is we want to go two braids down. So we have, here's 1, 2, and we're going to put the needle through that. So, and we'll kind of come back up. Preferably in the same neck of the woods that the other one went in. So, and preferably, yep, close enough. Pull it out. And again, kind of just go ahead and pull the rest of it out with you. There's one. Okay, I'm going to do another one. See, there's one, there's two. And we'll try to, this time, get it a little closer to be over here as our friend. Now, if you have a problem pulling this out, sometimes it's not bad to have a pair of pliers handy to help pull the needle out, because it can be a little hard at times. Back over. Okay, this is the third one on this side. We have 3 stitches on this side. 1, 2, 3. This is the third one on this side. And then what we'll do is this third one, we'll actually kind of come up at a 45 and go in. So it comes out the side here, on a different side. And then at this point in time, we can just kind of give this a little bit of a tug, just to make sure everything's good and tight. And then we're going to begin now stitching on the top, back to where we came from. So 1, 2. I'm not super worried if it's not perfect. You'll never see it. Does a job regardless. Right there. Okay, that's all nicely done. Then we'll go ahead and wrap this around. Looks like it's gonna be pretty tough to make a knot out of this, I would believe, but you never know. Okay, there it is. Snip both ends, and see, do we have a lighter anywhere, hopefully? A beautiful camera person that is behind the scenes. It's getting us a lighter. And so this kind of concludes, once we get this kind of a little melted, kind of concludes the whipping of the ice splice. Voila, there you have it. Very nice. And then last but not least, we're going to whip the end of this line. So if you don't have one of these, I would highly recommend you get one. It's a hot knife. This one is by Seaward, but man, once you get one of these, it was kind of expensive, 120, 130 bucks, but it's good for all kinds of fun things. If you do canvas works, it's awesome to be able to cut some building material with it, and to cut lines, it's fantastic. It's the best way to go. But what I like to do though with cutting lines is I actually like to, instead of just cutting it unbound, I actually like to put a piece of tape around it and then kind of make sure it's nice and snug. Because I find when it's nice and snug with a tape, you don't end up with these kind of balloon. You can see that kind of like a little mushroom deal at the end. So the tape actually prevents that from happening. So, but yeah, no, anyway, so again, if you don't have one of these, I would really recommend it, because it's literally the best thing since sliced bread and butter. Well, maybe not, but close enough. And really, it's just a question of me being lazy over here. Okay. So yeah, so basically you grab a knife and you cut it in the middle here. voila. And try not to breathe in all the obnoxious fumes. I always keep a little aluminum plate in there. And voila, what it does do is that it does a very nice job of making sure you have a nice clean edge, nice and melted when you get there. So let's peel that off. Normally when you peel that off, you get most of the burnt crap off. And really, you see how nice that is? Kind of hard to beat, so. Okay, fabulous. So then our next trick here is to basically whip this. Okay, so for whipping, I normally try to have a fairly decent piece of line. I normally find that if I don't, I basically always get cut short. So we have a fairly nice piece right here. And so what I like to do is I will start by putting a bend in, grabbing the line, putting the bend over in this direction, not the other one, like this. And it's going to be really tricky to be able to see, just because most likely requires a decent zoom. Then you grab this line and then you start wrapping it around that over, and there you go. And then you end up wrapping it as many times as you're feeling. I normally recommend about the width of the line, really. So again, if this was not in white, it might be a little bit easier to see. So yeah, so there we have it. Close enough. And then we grab the end of the line, the bitter end, I guess, and you put it through the loop that we put in here. And luckily, my beautiful wife was nice enough to grab a pair of pliers. So if you grab this end right here and you start pulling, keep that nice and straight, what's going to happen is it's going to suck it up in here. At least a little bit of a ways. Okay. And then the trick is that you grab a needle, and thread it, obviously. Grab our good friend over here. And what we'll do is we will start by burying the needle into the other side. So I'm coming up with a double line. So we're going to go right here, push it over to the side. And we're going to basically grab the whole thing and bring it on with us. And just leave a little bit of a tail over there. So, and this is where you'll find out if we have enough line or not. So what we'll do is we'll start on this side. We'll get our two lines kind of parallel, and we'll cross them over here, grab our needle, and at this point just go straight across over the top of the whipping. And sometimes it's easier said than done, depending on how gung-ho you were with the what's we call it, the melting and how close you got to the melted end. So we got that in there, and I said sometimes a nice pair of pliers comes in very handy. So we pull it through. And then kind of look it over at this end and bring it on through. Okay, so there's number one. Good. And then number two is you're going to come over here. Now you'll bend this back over. We'll come down this way. This should go in a little bit easier, except we're going to go back out, but at a 45. So it comes up over here. So we have our second set of locks, and then the third one comes in over here, to the top. Close to that melted portion. Then you got that. Pull it all the way in. And last but not least, you bring this back up and over through here. And voila. So not 100% perfect. These bars could be a little bit kind of more spaced out of 90, but really at the end of the day, it'll do the job just fine. And the job is to prevent it from kind of meandering around. So yeah, it looks good. So yeah, so once you do that, you can go ahead and cut the lines. And again, melt it all together, and then life is good. If you do this on a regular basis, they will surely can come out a little bit better. Again, it's the fact that I haven't done this in, I don't know, 2 or 3 years since last time we had to do any of this stuff, so it's kind of hard to be perfect, but quite frankly, this still works and it gets the job done, and that's really what we're trying to do here. So the whole thought process behind here obviously is to prevent this from unraveling, and that will work just very nicely. So we'll have a little fun again with the lighter. Melt all this stuff off. And voila, we got the whipped, this end is now whipped. So we're good with this. The other end, we have our splice in. Life is good. Okay, so we have our finished product here. We have our splice, and then we have our whipped end over here. So they will both most likely give us some good service for years to come. I'm gonna end this video at this point in time. I still wanna continue on in future episodes talking about the conversion from the CDI furler over to the Harkin, but we'll catch up then. In the meantime, if you enjoy this kind of content, feel free to subscribe. And if you like this video, please give us a big thumbs up down below, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Take care now.
This video, hit subscribe and give us a big like down below. Thanks for watching.